You are listening to Survival Stories with Jacqui. Welcome, survival warriors. If you are a victim or survivor of trauma, then you're in the right place. In this show, we'll explore the extreme strength displayed by victims of trauma as they journey through life to the survival pinnacle. My name is Jacqui, and I am so grateful to be here today to share my survival with you. Here is this survival story. Let's dig deep. Hello again, survival warriors, and here we are again. And here I am with another friend of mine, Jason, who's going to share with us today what makes him so smiley today, and where it might have been happier times, but it wasn't, and what he did to make his life better. He's a smiley old soul today, and we like to keep it that way within our community. So, without saying more, I'm going to hand you over to Jason, who's going to introduce himself and what makes Jason a happy boy today. Good evening, Jason.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's our pleasure. Tell me about what makes you so happy today. What makes you a survival warrior?
So I am a stage 2A testicular cancer survivor, and I've definitely gone through my own journey a lot with that, but one of the reasons I'm just so happy is because everything that I've done leading up to this point, I really have wanted to help other survivors and other people going through what I had, and I've had a lot of opportunities to share my story and talk about it. And that's one of the reasons that I'm just happy of where I am today.
Well, that's great to hear. And we have to say we're grateful to you for sharing today with us, because I understand for men in general, testicular cancer is quite a hard one to deal with. And so you coming on today, thank you.
Of course.
Could you take us to the most difficult time in the journey for you? The point where it's possible that you might have been so down that you wanted to give up. What was the hardest point?
Yeah, I remember there was one day during chemo that so during chemo, I would always be like on the couch and nauseous and very tired and, just with all the drugs that, were coming in my body and just very weak. I didn't, have any hair. And I remember one day, I think my grandparents came to visit me, and I just could remember it was such a low time, and I almost wanted it to just end. Like, I literally vividly remember me thinking of just the balcony was right outside kind of thing, and like, this could all be over. And that was the only time I ever thought of anything as deep as that, ever in my whole life.
So, what stage cancer were you at that point?
Say that one more time.
The stage of your cancer at that point.
So I was in the middle of chemotherapy. So I was still, I want to say it was probably about halfway to 3/4 of the way done. So I had chemo for 9 weeks. So this was probably maybe around week 6, maybe somewhere around there. And I remember at the very beginning, I always thought, I'm like, oh, chemo, this will be easy. Like, it's just, I sit there for a few hours and, and that's it. And I realized that it definitely was the total opposite of that. And really nothing like I would have expected.
If you don't mind me asking, could you sort of describe the experience? Because what you said, you just thought it was sitting there for a few hours. When you see it on the TV, that's exactly what it looks like. So I don't think people truly appreciate what
Yeah.
it's doing to the person?
Yeah, so I would come in. So my mom, actually, I was lucky enough, she took off 3 months worth of work just to sit with me in chemo every day and drive me. And that definitely brought us a lot closer. I just wanted to throw that in there. But yeah, she would drive me to the office or to the chemo room, and we would go in. I sat down, and they would, try and find one of my veins to get the needle for the chemo drugs. And towards the beginning, it was a lot easier for them to find the vein. But after a while, it was a lot more difficult because the vein wasn't, I guess, big enough. It was harder to find, which that's what happens in chemo a lot of times. So they would sometimes, prick me, it could be 6, 7 times sometimes in a day just to find that one vein that may or may not work. So, my arm would be a little black and blue, and it I got so used to it, unfortunately, that I just kind of, um, I guess I was just so used to it. And I just remember I always would wear my hood because I didn't like to see all the people around me who were getting chemo as well.
So was that like a disassociation kind of thing?
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah. It was just, I guess, maybe a constant reminder that I would just pretend almost like I was sleeping, kind of like it was a dream, maybe. And whenever I would see others in their own chairs getting their chemotherapy, my stomach would always start to hurt. I think I just have a weak stomach when it comes to certain things. Mm-hmm. And it was just very difficult for me to see. And but yeah, usually it would last about maybe 5 or so hours a day. So it was kind of like going to school. Everyone else was in college, and I was sitting in a room getting chemotherapy every day.
I can kind of I can kind of understand how, why you'd want to disassociate, because, like a few years ago, I was quite ill, and the whole thing used to really get to me because, when you're really active and you're used to independence and living a life, and then suddenly you can't, and even if the will is there, you still can't. It's frustrating. It's like you just want it to stop, really, don't you?
Yeah. I had just graduated college. I mean, not college. I had just graduated high school. So it was really kind of the start of what my life would have been. And then it kind of, got a hold to it, unfortunately, which was hard.
And I think you're very brave, as I do all cancer survivors. Because,
well, thank you.
Tell us how you got to the point of discovering the cancer, and how you broke it to your family. You said your mom was a great, supporter of you and, held you down and all those things, which is, a lovely, lovely thing. At those times, you need your family to be right with you on everything. Could you tell us how that all happened?
Yeah, so I was actually just on the couch watching television, and
how basically, old were you?
I was 18. It was right before prom. And I basically just had an itch downstairs. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that one testicle was harder than the other. Okay. And I never had felt that before. I never had an actual gut feeling before that I remembered. And that time I did. It was the weirdest experience. And I was just like, thinking about it. I'm like, what could this be kind of thing. It just, there's something that seems off. And I'm very close with my mom, as I had mentioned. And so I went upstairs and talked to her and told her about it. And within about 3 days, I went to the doctor and he did the testicular exam, basically just feeling them, and realized that, without any tests, I mean, he knew it was testicular cancer. And that's when we heard for the first time, that you have cancer.
What was the first thing to go through your
mind? What I always say is I felt my life flashed in front of my eyes. So all I could see was, my past, and basically not much of a future left. I was supposed to go to college and everything. I was already accepted at that point, kind of thing. So I was ready to go. And now it's like, well, this is your new reality. That's not real life anymore, kind of
thing. That's a lot to take on. That's a lot to get your mind around, because, when you say your life flashed before your eyes, it's like such a short life, and so many opportunities and expectations about what the future will bring. That must have been devastating for you, because, you wouldn't really know what's facing you moving forward.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I thought of when I would hear the word cancer was basically, how much longer do I have to live? Mm-hmm. And that was my biggest fear. When I heard that, and actually not too long before I was diagnosed, my grandmother had been re-diagnosed with cancer. So on my mom, it was like extra hard, because now her mom's re-diagnosed, and then her son is now recently diagnosed. And that was hard on her.
Was your mom with you on the day?
Yeah, she went with me to the doctor. So she heard it firsthand.
It's a tough gig. Yeah. I'm a mom. I can't imagine what she would have felt like.
I think both of us were really just in shock and disbelief. And I remember after the appointment, we had to do some follow-up, or I had to do some follow-up tests, an ultrasound and that kind of stuff, to see, I guess, to really just confirm of what the doctor had said, scientifically, kind of thing. But it was hard to hear, because I kept thinking, what happens now? Where do I go from here? That kind of stuff.
So you get this diagnosis. Your mom knows, but did the two of you take that time to, to take it in properly before you told the rest of your family, or did you just, because it would have been a hard thing to do, I imagine, to tell the rest of your family something like that?
Yeah, in general, my family is very close. I know my mom was the one who told my grandparents and my uncle and my aunt. I think on the way home, I think she called my grandmother up, because she had the same relationship with my grandmother as I do with my mom. So they were very close, and they definitely. I mean, I know she was obviously still in shock, as was my grandmother, but I don't know if she really took the time to really, realize the reality. Maybe I don't know. Mm. I've never been in that situation with her, kind of, being in her shoes. So I don't know how she, would have really taken that time.
Let me ask you, because I'm trying to understand, and I want everyone to really understand what you went through at that point, because it's important, and it's important to give you the respect that you deserve in this conversation. How did me think about this question. The devastation was there, the worry about the future, but did you always know in your heart of hearts that there would be a future? Did you start off in that positive vein before anything else? So do you understand where I'm going with this?
I do. I guess I have two different ways to answer that. So when I was physically in the doctor's office after I had heard the news that I had cancer, I do not remember me thinking of the future in a good way. It really, to me, was a stop. However, I think once I went home and processed it more, I remember it was either before or after my surgery, because I had surgery and then chemotherapy. I don't remember I think it was before my surgery. And I do remember I was already thinking of some sort of fundraiser or something to spread more awareness about it. But again, I think that was, within maybe a month or two, probably about a month maybe, following me hearing the news.
I think it shows the strength of the man straight away, because you didn't, from what I've taken, you haven't got to that point of why me kind of approach, or did you? Which would be quite natural. It's like I said, when I got ill,
right,
I was paralysed from the neck downwards, and I really did think, why me? Not that I wish it on anybody else.
Right, of course. I think I had that feeling when I was in chemo, especially once it had gotten more difficult for me, where, like I mentioned, my veins weren't as large kind of thing for them to actually find a vein to put the needle in and that kind of stuff. And I think at that point it was kind of a why me, because I remember there was one time where it was the hardest day at chemo and it took them forever to find the vein. And I think that was one of the only days there that I actually cried. I usually didn't want to, because I don't think it was for my mom. I think it was more for me. Like if I do that, then it's like, I guess I didn't want to either admit it to myself or, you know what I mean? I don't know how to explain that.
Yeah, I get that. Jason, could we just take a break there? I just want to leave people thinking about this for a minute.
Of course.
You've taken us on quite a journey for a young person to have to deal with. And I want to take us one step further straight after the break. So we'll be right back.
Hi everyone, my name is Jason Greenspan. By now you've heard some of my story, and I just wanted to let you know of how thankful I am. And I hope you will share the story with other people as well, really to continue spreading awareness. It's a great cause. And if you'd like to speak with me further, my email is tcspeakerseries@gmail.com. And you can also visit my website at www.tcspeakerseries.com. I am starting my own podcast to give other testicular cancer survivors a platform. So definitely please share, and I'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much.
So, Jason, what I want you to do for us now, if that's okay with you, explain to us the whole chemo journey. Where did you start? Which stage did you start your chemo at? Was it did it progress well to start with, or were there ups and downs? Just talk us through it, really. The way you were rebuilt to where you are today.
Sure. Yeah, so when I had started chemo, it definitely wasn't that difficult at the beginning. Um, but it it definitely was, the more I had gone through it. I remember so the way my chemo worked, so it was 9 weeks total, and there were three different cycles. So there were 3 week cycles. So for the first week, I would go in every single day, Monday through Friday, um, for I think it was like 5 or 6 hours a day. It was a pretty good chunk of time. And then for the last 2 weeks, I only went in, I believe, on Fridays. It was just one day a week. And at the first Friday of the time where I went in every day, I would always throw up. And at first, it was kind of, I thought maybe a fluke thing, but then it got to the point where I was able to like see the future kind of thing. And I'm like, well, today's going to be the day. And it sounds like such a minor thing, but to me, throwing up has always been my biggest fear, or one of my biggest fears. So to me, it was like a huge thing when it happened.
Were you? I'm completely with you on that one. I'm not laughing at the event. I'm laughing at the idea of vomit, because vomit
Yeah.
always makes me vomit. You know.
Yeah.
So I completely. I'm smiling in with you. You know?
Yeah.
I know
No,
exactly your point. That alone would make me think, oh no. So sorry, continue.
No, but I just that part was definitely hard, and even just going through the chemo experience, the longer I think I was in chemo, the more trying to think of the word. I was not very nice to my mom, and I think since she was the only one nearest me, I think she was the one I was taking it out on. But it was very, I definitely, the littlest things would bother me that she did. And it wasn't like me talking, it was the chemo talking.
Absolutely. But mums are the right person for that job.
Yes, they can handle that.
How many rounds did you have to go through?
I had three. So there were 3 weeks per round. So it was 9 weeks total.
That's quite a lot for one body to take. Did it change your life? As you were going through them, did you have to stop work? Had you started work? Or
So I had just graduated from high school. So I was accepted into college. I was able to get deferred, luckily, for a year. So that was at least nice, and just reassurance that I have somewhere to go after this, in a sense. But yeah, no, I hadn't started working yet.
so that was actually good for you, because it would have been one more thing to have to worry about, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely say, I think if it had to happen at a time, it probably couldn't have been a better time, because it was a huge transition period in my life. Whereas if it were to happen when I was, in 10th or 11th grade, that would have then messed with my schooling at that point.
How did you said your grandma had been diagnosed as well. How did she deal with this situation? I would have thought it would have been hard on her as well.
Yeah, I was very close with her. We always had a special bond. She would always tell me that, from day one when I was little. And she really was the only one I think really out of anyone that could actually relate to what I was going through, since she had had chemo as well when she was first diagnosed. So she really had gone through everything and I think understood it more than anyone.
Mm.
And that was very reassuring to know, just that, you know, obviously my mom sees it, but my grandmother went through it. And there's a difference.
So are you both in remission at the moment?
So she passed away 5 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you. But yes, I am in remission. I've been in remission since November of 2012, so about 7 years. So thank you.
So from a relationship point of view, have you been able to have normal relationships? And, you know, because I know a lot of men, when it comes to problems downstairs, it sort of affects the mindset quite a lot. How's that been for you?
Yeah, so obviously all guys have different ways of viewing it. Mine has always been to be very upfront about what happened to me. So usually within the first, honestly, like pretty soon into the conversation of just starting to talking to someone, I do let them know, because it's such a huge part of my life in everything that I do. And it's kind of like, it's a great way to weed them out in a sense of, if they're not accepting of it, well, that's kind of who I am. So now better I know now kind of thing. But no, in general, they've all been very supportive, whether going to any speeches that I've done or fundraisers or anything. They've always been very supportive.
So it sounds like your raising awareness is quite a big part of your recovery and survival from all of this. Is that correct?
Yeah, and sharing my story. Yeah, like when I was mentioning about, I was already thinking of a fundraiser. I had done a fundraiser through my chemo experience. I continued it. I made custom squish pennies, and I sold them on my website and donated a portion to Live Strong. And that I think helped me get through chemo, because I was able to see, I think I was able to get my mind off of it and actually focus on, you know, oh, I got an order, I have to ship this out. And it was just something positive to do, which I think really helped. And ever since, yeah, I mean, I've been raising awareness ever since. So it's definitely been a huge part of my life.
So this has been really, really informative for me. But so if I ask a lot of questions, it's because it's really informative for everybody.
Of course.
Now that you have been in remission since 2012, does that mean that you can sort of relax a bit now and feel a bit more comfortable knowing that it's under control? Is that how it works?
So they usually watch you for the first 5 years in remission. So I would have a CAT scan, I believe it was twice a year, with an X-ray once a year. And then once I passed a certain point in time, then I was able to have just one X-ray a year and one CAT scan a year. Now it is kind of optional. I don't need to, because I'm past the 5-year point. But my mom and I still have me go just as a reassurance, just to make sure.
Mom sounds like a diamond.
She is.
Jason, we're going to take a break there, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about what you're doing to raise awareness, because I think it's important for you guys to know what Jason's doing and to get involved where you can to support this cause. Hi, this is Jacqui, and you've been listening to one of my friends tell their stories today. I invite my friends to tell their stories to help you heal. If you do have any trauma or any difficulties that you think we could help you with, please visit my website, jacquiandfriends.com, and leave a message or contact me, and I'll be happy to connect you with either today's friend or anyone else who you've listened to or watched who you think might be able to help you further. Or if you just want to talk to me, that's great too. And we're back, and we've heard such an inspiring story about a man with testicular cancer who's happy to stand up and talk about it and to raise awareness about it in the hope of helping others. Now, I'm going to ask Jason a few more questions. Hopefully he'll give us some answers. If you can think of anything that you want to ask him, please feel free to comment in the comments below, and I'll be happy to pass your questions on to him. But first of all, Jason, what I want to ask you, do you consider yourself brave to stand up and say, I've had this? Do you consider yourself brave?
100% now. Yeah. I think I've always been, in general, ever since I was little, I've always been the shy one. And I think this really has gotten me out of my shell, because when I talk to people, whether it's my coworkers or friends or anyone, especially who didn't know me when I was younger, they're always the one to say, yeah, you're very confident. I would never think you would be the shy one. And I still consider myself the shy one just because I just go back to, my childhood, and that's who I started as, kind of thing. That's how I always feel inside, but yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about the raising awareness that you do, the fundraisers, and talk to us about how we can help in any way, or, what we can do. Is there any places that we can visit online or anywhere? What can we do?
Sure. So I've had a few campaigns that I've worked on. Obviously, my first one being the Stamp Out Cancer Now, which was the Squish Pennies. And so that was the first one I did, which has lasted up through now, but it slowed down. So that's why I kind of have worked on other things. The next one that I did was when I was a senior in college. My very last semester, I had raised a lot of awareness on campus. And I was afraid that when I left, that the awareness would go with me. And so because of that, I wanted to do something really big before I left. And I thought, what's bigger than a world record?
Okay.
So apparently I did some research, and there was a record for Guinness for the largest simultaneous self-check for testicular cancer. And so I kind of set myself to want to beat it. And I thought, if we can get the school involved, and, it would raise a lot of awareness around the school,
Mm-hmm.
Not just talking about it, but by guys physically doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, have a really good public angle for the school also, which would even help raise awareness even more.
Excellent.
So I literally took the entire last semester to plan for it. I had never planned an event on my own before, but I had been a part of our Colleges Against Cancer Club, which I was the president of that year. And that was my first experience in planning events. So this was really a learn as I went, which was really fun. And we ended up beating the previous record. I think the last one was 207 guys, and we got 236.
Go on.
So it was incredible. We had survivors speak. We had, like I said, 236 guys come out, most of which were from the fraternity, checking themselves. We had informational tables. We had doctors speak. We had survivors that spoke who were from the area, because I really wanted to bring a local element to the school. It was in a small town, and it was definitely something that people talked about and knew about. The one thing that I remember that I wanted to happen from that event was I wanted, at a minimum, everyone in the school to know of the event, at a minimum. And I definitely think I accomplished that. I mean, I felt pretty good about it. Like, even people who didn't go or whatever, I would ask, hey, have you heard of this event? Oh, yeah. And then it's like, yeah, I was the one behind that. Like, they didn't realize, but I was so glad that they had heard of it.
So are you in the Guinness Book of Records now?
I am. So we're not in the book. We're on the website though. They only allow a certain number in the book because it's a specific.
Most of time has moved on. Wow.
But yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I went back, once we got the certificate, I went back to the school and a few organizations that had helped me and, we partnered with to present the certificate to them, which was really fun. And at my university, the one thing I requested was, so in our Sadia Union building, our CUB, that's like our main building on campus, so I went to Shippensburg University. I guess I didn't mention that before. And the main building on campus for the activities and everything, they have autographed posters from, all the famous artists who have come to the school and everything. And that was the building that I wanted the Guinness certificate to hang in, because that's just the most recognizable place on campus. And I thought it would be the perfect place. And that was like my one request to the president was, if it can go in there. And a few weeks later, I got a picture and it is currently still hung in there. So I was really happy about that.
That's lovely. You can see your positivity just shines out of the screen. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in person hanging up, so I'd love to still do that at some point. But it's just really nice to know that future people who go to the school, especially, if families are given tours for new students and stuff, I think seeing a Guinness certificate on the wall is definitely going to stand out to them with that school versus other schools, and really know kind of the positivity that happened from the event.
I must say, personally, I love your strength, because it's like, even though you say you are the shy one, I'll have to believe you on that one. Because you're certain, you've got this spirit within you that came together right at the right time. You came out as a fighter, and quite rightly, you're winning the ball.
Thank you very much.
So, thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Of course.
I know that whilst your story has been one which has support within it and a lot of positive notes within it, there is still a stigma attached to the whole process of discovering, doing self-tests, discovering, reporting. There's a lot of fear attached to that. What advice would you give to men, I'm going to say, not even men of a certain age, men who, in relation to testicular cancer, what would you say to them about getting themselves, going through the checking, getting themselves organised if more help is needed?
Yeah, as you mentioned, there's definitely a stigma associated with it. A lot of people are embarrassed to talk about it, and that's one of the reasons why I'm sharing my story, so that others don't have that fear. One of the things I definitely would recommend is doing monthly testicular self-exams. You can do them after the shower. There's a lot of websites online, a lot of organizations, and even YouTube videos that can literally walk you through it. It literally takes maybe 2 minutes to do. And you can do them once a month. And I also would recommend getting your physical at the doctor's just once a year, your annual physical, so that a doctor can also do it as well. It's the most common type of cancer in males 15 to 44, which is why it's really important for, I was targeting the younger age, but that doesn't exclude older people as well.
Sure.
Just because they're not in that age range doesn't mean that they're not susceptible of getting it.
It's important to know that.
It is, and it's if you discover it early, which I did. So I was stage 2A, which means it was just past the testicle. That's why I needed the chemotherapy. If you discover it early, there's a 99% chance of it being cured. So it's that's why a lot of survivors and organizations, they all recommend the self-check, because if you find it early, it's 99% beatable.
No, it's not the end, which is what people often think with the C word. That once it's spoken about, then everything is going to go to pot straight away, and they need to start putting themselves in order. If you take the right steps, then it is curable nowadays. It's not necessarily all over for you.
Correct. Yeah, that's why it's so important.
So what else has the future got for you, Jason?
So ever since my event in college, I am planning events for a nonprofit, a national nonprofit, that's unrelated to testicular cancer, but it's in the health field. So that really is something I really wanted to do. I didn't realize it until after I graduated college. So I guess I should probably mention, so I have a bachelor's in marketing. So that's what my degree was in. And I knew I wanted something with marketing, but I didn't really know what. And when I learned through my event, that's when I really realized what I wanted to do. And just very grateful to work with a health-related nonprofit with planning events. I mean, it's exactly what I wanted to do. And
more like you.
Yeah.
You just come across as somebody who's just so giving. It's fabulous.
Yeah, and even though it's obviously a different health-related organization, it's definitely just the fact of it being a nonprofit and health-oriented. I feel very close and like wanting to learn more. And I still have the same passion I do for testicular cancer as I do with the nonprofit.
Yeah.
Which is really, really cool and really rewarding.
Oh, excuse me. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today. It's been fabulous listening to your fabulous story. I'm so grateful that you're a survivor and that you're with us today and keeping the awareness going and helping others to understand the importance of looking after themselves to make sure that they stay, healthy. So thank you again for that, Jason. But you don't get away without going through the spotlight check. So, chicken or beef? Don't say you're a vegetarian, because I get this.
No, I'm not. I'd say chicken.
Chicken. Good man. Sneakers or flip-flops?
Flip-flops.
Flip-flops. I might have guessed that. Is your hair in a bun?
It is.
Would you prefer to go swimming or for a run?
For a run. I actually don't swim, so.
You don't swim?
No.
Well, I got that bit wrong, because to me, I thought there's a surfer dude if I ever saw one.
And actually, now that you mentioned a run, right when I started being in remission, there was a program called Cancer to 5K that I joined because I always wanted to do a 5K. So that's one of the reasons of why I would also pick that.
So are you there yet? Are you at 5K now, or have you exceeded your 5K?
I did a lot. I haven't ran actually recently, but I did a lot of 5Ks soon after chemo.
Well, that's where it ends. Don't worry, I'm not going to put you through anymore. I'm just going to say to our guests, thank you to Jason for coming and helping us out today. And for you guys, I hope you've listened and I hope you've understood the importance of looking after yourself first and foremost. The road to recovery, the road to survival is often a rocky one. but it's important that we focus, and it's important that we realise that feeling of positivity, that look into the light is always there. All we have to do is walk towards it. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Until next time, Survival Warriors, my name's Jacqui, my friend is Jason, and I will see you next time.
And there we have it, another empowering episode of Survival Stories. If you heard something today that resonated with you, please reach out at jacquiandfriends.com and download our free PDF. Don't forget to head over to iTunes and leave a 5-star review and rating. And whilst you're online, why not join our community of warriors on Facebook at Survival with Jacqui. Look forward to seeing you there.